Welcome to the Thornton Review, the show designed with you in mind. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Doug Chico was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida. He joined the Navy just out of high school in 2009 and received his bachelor's degree in history from the U.S. Naval Academy. Doug left the Navy as lieutenant during COVID due to the vaccine mandates and the politicized nature of the military under the Biden administration. Doug has participated in multiple startups and serves as the National Sales Director for F3 Defense, which develops and manufactures patented non-lethal protection for individuals, law enforcement, and long-haul drivers with a protective vehicle-mounted pepper spray system. Doug is a member of the board at the American Legion and AMVETS. His other noteworthy accomplishments include serving as the Deputy Staff Logistics Officer for all Navy training, education, and recruiting commands worldwide, directly managing $2.6 billion in assets. He developed and executed a plan to evacuate all military students from the Pensacola area to the Marine Logistics Base in Albany, Georgia. He was recognized as the top supply officer for retail operations while serving on the USS IWO JIMA and as the lead supply officer in response to Hurricane Irma. Doug has spent much of the last year serving the people of Northwest Florida and is currently taken a sabbatical from work to ensure he is fully engaged in listening to his future constituents. Hi, I'm Pueschel Schneier, Executive Producer and Manager of the Thornton Review. Thank you for tuning in. On today's show, we have Doug Chico. He is a candidate for U.S. Congress in Florida's 1st Congressional District. So Doug, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for carving time out of your schedule to sit down and have a conversation with me, because I know you're busy, because I watch you on social media and I know you. You're going around, you're working it. You are doing a good job.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you. But will you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely, ma'am. And I've been all over the 4 counties. I've put about 20,000 plus miles on my car since we've declared. So
yeah.
I'm all over and I stay busy. So thank you so much for having me on. So I'm Doug Chico. I'm running for U.S. Congress in Florida's 1st District. And I'm running not because I truly wanted to. I didn't have long-term ambitions to run for office, but my country's truly in trouble right now. And what got me going was thinking about my daughter's generation. She's turning 3, just not having the same freedoms and opportunities that we did back in the day when we grew up. And I do not want to look her in the eye in 5 years and apologize, if we've truly lost our country and lost the American dream, and not have tried to fix that. So that's why I'm here today.
I think any parent could appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I know I do. So, well, thank you for that. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll begin our discussion with Doug Chico. He's a candidate for U.S. Congress in Florida's 1st District.
Hi, I'm Doug Chico, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in Florida's 1st District. I'm not running for Congress because I had long-term political ambitions. I'm running because I'm very concerned that my daughter's generation just won't have the same freedoms and opportunities that we all enjoyed back in the day. I'm a Christian, a loving father, a patriot, a former Navy lieutenant, and we're a 6th-generation Northwest Florida family. In the Navy, I managed billions of dollars of assets, and I was the lead supply officer to respond to Hurricane Irma in the Keys in 2017. I'm a proven leader that's ready to fight for all of Northwest Florida and this country. Don't give up the ship, and let's save America together.
There is no government-funded program that can guide a man's thoughts. Only God can do that. tuning in. We're gonna begin our discussion with Doug Chico. So, Doug, the very first question I want to ask you is what was the spark? What was the moment or the reason that you decided to run for Congress?
That's a great question, ma'am. So, again, like I mentioned earlier, I did not have any long-term ambitions of running political office, but I was just looking over Pensacola Bay and just thinking about where our country's headed in the next couple of years, and thinking about my daughter's future in the world that she'll be growing up in with her generation. And I just got really fed up and said to myself, well, I'm going to run for Congress. And I felt compelled to do that, step up for my country. I signed an oath to defend the Constitution and our nation as a plebe at the Naval Academy, and then as a commissioned officer, and I intend to fulfill that oath. That's why I'm here. Pensacola is my home. I was born here at the Navy Hospital back when they delivered babies back in the day. We're a sixth generation Northwest Florida family.
Wow.
I'm a former Navy lieutenant, supply corps officer, managed a couple $1 billion in assets. I was the lead supply officer to respond to Hurricane Irma after that hit the Keys. There was a terrible mess down there.
Right.
So got relevant experience from age 18 to my age now. I've either been active duty the whole time, supporting veterans, active duty, or law enforcement. I'm the national sales director for F3 Defense. We sell automated pepper spray systems for police vehicles, and I think I'm the right man for the job. And I'm truly from Northwest Florida, and I'm ready to step up and serve not only the people of our district, but America as well.
So, as a non-elected official, what has been your biggest accomplishment here in District 1?
Yes, ma'am. So when I was on a flag staff for Naval Education Training Command, I oversaw all the logistics functions for all Navy training, education, and recruiting commands worldwide. One of my collateral duties was to establish a plan to evacuate every single military student from the Pensacola region up to the Albany Marine Corps Logistics Base, Albany, Georgia. So that took a lot of planning, a lot of coordination with multiple branches of the military, and I finally got that accomplished to get all the branches to work together. And so I was responsible for all the contracting, the budgets, ordering the buses, the MREs from DLA troop support to make that happen. So that was a plan that I put in place, and I can say it's still in place today. In the event of a hurricane, those folks will get out of here safely thanks to what I did and I put together.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, what's the biggest problem right now in District 1?
So I would definitely say it's affordability. We have an affordability crisis right now. We have families that can't afford basic necessities for their children. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Is on that note, I would like to officially announce that I will donate every single dollar from my congressional salary that exceeds the median income for Florida's 1st District. And I think that would be productive that all candidates step up and make that same pledge. It's the least we can do for the people of Northwest Florida.
So you have military experience and you were in the Navy.
Yes.
What made you decide to join the Navy as opposed to, Army, Air Force, Marines?
I actually came from a military family. So my father was a Marine Corps pilot. He went to Naval Academy as well. I came from a family of Marines, so I was the black sheep that went Navy, and they always kid me for that over the years. So
right, I'll bet.
I was a Navy supply corps officer, so we managed all of the budgets for the Navy, contracting, food, logistics, fuel management. If it's finances for the Navy, we manage it from top to bottom. Whether you're on a ship with a SEAL team or you're at a shore-based installation, we take care of all of that.
So you were a lieutenant, that's an officer?
Yes,
and you went to OCT?
I went to Annapolis, so the U.S. Naval Academy. So you can go through OCS or you can go to the Naval Academy. There's a couple of different commissioning sources, but the Naval Academy is the route that I chose.
Okay, so you went to the Naval Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do there?
So I was a history major, so it's an engineering school, so everyone has to take electrical engineering, naval architecture, thermodynamics, 3 semesters of calculus. So whether you're an English major or history major, you still have to take
calculus?
Yeah, 3 semesters.
Yikes.
It used to be 4. My dad had to take 4, but I did 3.
Wow.
So it's a great education. In order to teach there, you have to be a PhD. So we've got amazing faculty at the Naval Academy. It's definitely one of the best institutions for higher learning in the U.S., I would say.
And how long did you go there?
So it's a 4-year program, and I graduated in 2013.
Okay, congratulations. And so you have your bachelor's in history.
Yes, ma'am.
have you used that at all in your career? Or is it just fun to know history? You're a history buff to begin with. My son, the reason I'm asking is because my son, my son David,
Yes.
he's a history buff.
That's awesome.
And he's probably going to major in history and political science. But yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, well, what do you know about history?
So it actually comes in handy with talking with folks from foreign military. So when there's a delegation
Absolutely.
from Latin America, we took part in the Panamex foreign exercise. So we had naval personnel from Colombia, Panama, all of Latin America come into Mayport, the naval base in Mayport. And I was one of the folks that was picked to meet the flag officers coming in, the generals and the admirals. And just having that background of history and different cultures really played a key role in that. So that's how I was able to take my history knowledge and bring it in to the Navy.
Awesome. So you were on a ship.
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you on a ship, like at a time? You would port and then go back on the ship. What do you do on the ship?
So I was on the USS IWO JIMA over in Mayport. So it's an amphibious assault ship. So our main job is to carry the Marines into battle wherever that may be. So we carry helicopters, jets, and then you've got your Marines that come on board and they're ready to execute on the commander-in-chief's orders when needed. So I was the S3 officer, S2 officer, and S5. For those that don't know what this means, I was in charge of all the food,
and the
logistics, spare parts, and just making sure the crew and our embarked Marines had what they need to operate and get the job done.
So that sounds like a pretty big job, and because you're over so many people and you have to make sure all these guys have what they need and that they're happy, or I don't know if you have to make sure they're happy, but you have to make sure that their needs are met.
Oh no, morale of the crew is huge, because if morale goes in,
yeah.
Even like, for instance, we have vending machines on the ship just because like we want to bring a little piece of home back on board the ship. So if you're standing a watch at 1 a.m., you might want to go get a drink just to get some caffeine to stay awake. So that's another role that we play. While I was attached to IWO JIMA, we had Hurricane Irma hit. I think I mentioned this earlier. We were pre-positioned to respond to that. It was awful. Unfortunately, we had some folks that tried to ride out the storm on sailboats, and they ended up getting pulled out of the water because they just they didn't make it. But thankfully, my storerooms were stocked with water, because the previous year we were preparing to respond to another storm in the Caribbean and we were called off. So I had all this water that I had to get rid of. So it was just
amazing. That's good. Yeah.
One thing led to another, and Governor Rick Scott put out the call saying, hey, we need all available fresh water. So I just was in the right place at the right time with my ship. So we responded, we flew in, and we took care of not only Americans on our homeland, but also the people of my home state. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, great. Okay, so back to Florida's first congressional district.
Yes, ma'am.
So you see the problem as it's not going in the right direction. What do you plan to do to steer it in the right direction and to make your daughters and everybody's children's futures the way they should be, American conservatism?
Yes, ma'am. So the first thing that I would do is introduce a digital Bill of Rights. So we've got an immigration crisis that's not being addressed. That's a major issue, but my first plan of action is to put a curb on this AI surveillance that's sweeping the nation. It recently came out that every single new car sold in the U.S. has to have sensors, cameras inside the vehicle with a government kill switch. Right, so if your eyes are twitching, or if you're tired a little bit, or you're talking to your baby in the back seat, your car may just shut off and disable itself. We're giving
that's
up.
That's going to cause an accident.
Yes, exactly.
That's going to cause a pileup.
Yes, so I don't even know how that's going to play out, because this hasn't come into force yet.
Good.
But unfortunately, every single Democrat voted to have this in place, and there was about 50 Republicans that flipped over to make sure it passed. So again, not all Republicans are the same.
Yeah.
Yes, there's too many rhinos up there, frankly. So we need to vote those folks out and follow the Constitution and stand up for our God-given rights and the Constitution.
Right.
So, yeah.
What do you think about these flock cameras?
I'm not a fan. So that was actually the straw.
You don't think they're protecting us? I mean, are we actually safe without them? Being facetious.
I understand. So that's a great question. So flock safety, these are AI-powered cameras. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, actually. So Again, I never intended to run, but Flock was introduced in my hometown of Pensacola. And for those that don't know what Flock safety is, it's not your normal type of camera. It scans every dent, every scratch, every unique identifier for your car, and then takes videos and images of the people inside the vehicle, goes to a national database where federal agencies can track you, state governments, and about 5,000 local police departments without oversight, without a warrant, and no justification. So, yes.
Why would anybody think that's a good idea?
Well, there can be benefits. For instance, if someone is kidnapped, you can find them faster. But here's the thing: there's always some benefit when it comes to giving up your civil liberties or any type of new technology. There's always some trade-off. But the founding fathers, they wrote under pen names. If we didn't have any privacy back when the revolution occurred, we would still be under British rule. So we have to preserve some level of privacy and balance security with our civil liberties. And right now, we really need a digital Bill of Rights to finish what our founding fathers started and protect what we have.
Yeah, so, I could go into that further and ask so many questions, but maybe we should move on because the first thing that comes to my mind is like personal accountability.
Yes.
And, don't be where you're not supposed to be. Don't be with who you're not supposed to be. It's because of the bad things and the abuse that people do with our rights.
Yes, ma'am.
That make the government want to take our rights away from us. It's because people are abusing our rights. Just don't abuse your rights. But I guess that's not going to happen. People are going to abuse our rights.
Our rights come from God, not from government. For every bill that's passed, essentially we're infringing on liberty in some capacity. So before I ran, I called about 12 congressional offices and the offices for 3 U.S. senators. I was calling folks, emailing folks, doing everything I could to find out why do we have this nationwide AI system, because there's 90,000 plus these AI cameras around the country. I can say I most likely had an impact because back in January I was exchanging emails and calling Congressman Massey's office, and their staffers said we've never heard of Flock. He does a fantastic job. There's lots of attacks on our civil liberties, but his staffer, at least 1 or 2 staffers, said we just haven't heard of this. Right. There was just a bill proposed that requires all AI license plate reading technologies to bring a warrant with it. And so I think that I likely played a role in getting that bill out there, at least that one portion. So that's fantastic, and we need more people like that to stand up for the Constitution.
Right. Yeah. So they have to get a warrant in order to get the information.
Yes, because right now, unfortunately, like if you're a law enforcement or federal agency in California, you can watch anybody in Pensacola without a warrant, without oversight, and just get a warrant. Yeah. Like at a minimum.
Right.
So.
So, what are other issues? Like, what are other problems or issues that you want to tackle when you're elected?
It's a great question. So I say that I support ICE. So that's Immigration Reform and Enforcement, civil liberties, which we touched on already, effective affordability, and veterans benefits. As a former Navy lieutenant, our veterans, it's near and dear to my heart to make sure we're taking care of, all our veterans, not only in District 1, but across the country. So on the immigration piece, I support the president's initiative to get these people out of the country. But unfortunately, the mainstream Republican Party has come out and said, we are no longer interested in mass deportations. Well, in my opinion, we didn't even try. Debank all illegals here. There's 65 million plus of them. Debank them. Start taxing foreign remittances. If Uncle Sam knows about every single wire transfer we all do right now, I'm sure that we can identify these international transfers of money being sent back home and tax it 70, 80%. Yeah. If we do these simple actions, people will self-deport by the millions. We need to stop funding these NGOs that facilitated this mess in the first place. Right. And unfortunately, both the Democrats and Republicans continue to spend billions of our hard-earned money to bring in more legal migration. In fact, I think we may need to just halt, at least for a while, all legal immigration as well until we can get control of the situation. And then we can open it back up to the right people. Maybe not everyone from Somalia or Haiti. We want people that are going to come here to the U.S., the best and the brightest, and contribute to our society, and that want to assimilate. Right. So, and one big issue that I don't hear people talking about is our visa program. So you can fly into the U.S., overstay your visa, and then just disappear into society. You can't do that in a lot of third world countries.
Right.
So my challenge is, if they can do it in Latin America or Asia, why can't the United States of America do it? Because many of these folks that are not here legally, they flew in. They didn't cross the border.
Right.
So we just need to take bold action and get these folks out. Because if we don't turn the tide on this, we'll lose our country.
Right.
On the affordability piece, or sorry, civil liberties, we kind of talked about flock safety, so I won't go into that more detail, but we have to get a hold of all these new technologies coming in and put guardrails on this stuff. So again, we have to finish what our founding fathers started. A digital bill of rights will do a lot of work to do that. And then the last part of the acronym is effective affordability. We have to cut spending. Affordability just can't be...
Well, we have to cut fraud, waste, and abuse.
That's right. I mean, how many trillions of dollars have gone towards fraud?
Right.
Look at the Somalians up in Minnesota.
Right. Billions.
So how much of that is going on in California right now?
Yeah. And you know it's being wire transferred back to Somalia
Yes.
and other places.
Of course.
And like you said, if they can track it, they know where it is. So the waste, fraud, and abuse has been exposed. So
Yes.
what's being done about it? Is it being stopped? And that money going back into the coffers?
You know, that's a great question. I think that
Who's going to stop it?
I think there's a general lack of accountability in government right now, whether it's Russiagate, the Epstein crimes, the stuff in Somalia, election interference, Fast and Furious, we can go back further. There's just been a general lack of accountability. And I've spoken with a few thousand likely GOP voters, and many of them have expressed a deep frustration that there haven't been any arrests. Now, there was just an arrest recently, one of Tony Fauci's subordinates, so we're making progress, and kudos to the administration for that, but we have to go further. We need real accountability, because if we can't do that, we don't have a real country.
Right. Yeah, we do need real accountability, and we need it to not only be exposed, but to be stopped.
Exactly.
And turned around.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I think we need a very hard look at every budget in every political entity in every county.
Yes.
And to just get rid of the waste. There's so many departments that we don't need.
Amen. And we can use AI to, I know Doge was an issue, and then
Yeah.
unfortunately both parties didn't codify those cuts, but you can use AI for good. I mean, we talk about AI surveillance in this dystopian society that I want to put a halt to, but we can use AI to kind of identify fraud, waste, and abuse and save the taxpayer a lot of money. So we should start doing that too.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
that would be my number one thing right now.
Yes.
So you talked about ICE and deportation. Do you have a plan to help them, or would that be part of your job as a congressional elected official?
Yes, so I think the first step would be to taxing foreign remittances, because if we can cut off some of the money supply, many folks will just self-deport. And also, we're not enforcing existing labor laws for big corporations. So here's my proposal. You find the worst of the worst offender in the S&P 500 index. You roll up at his mansion at 6 a.m. and you have 25 ICE officers that perp walk him out. Fox News, CNN, Newsmax, OAN, they can all be there.
The Thornton Review.
The Thornton Review, of course, in a couple months, they can be there too. And that will send a message arresting a CEO live on television saying, you will enforce our labor laws, hire Americans, hire legal labor, enough is enough. Unfortunately, I feel that the donor class has way too much control over our political process, and that's most likely the reason that we're not seeing mass deportations to the level that we need.
Affordability is a huge thing.
Yes.
And I guess that's one of the reasons why these big corporations hire illegal aliens, is because they work for cheap or cheaper. And it might be hard to get Americans to work at that. Well, they're probably working for under minimum wage, and it would be illegal to pay Americans under minimum wage. I think we need to lower the minimum wage. We need to make everything affordable again, like what it was in the 70s. People could afford anything.
Well, when you have mass deportations and we get these millions of people out, prices will come down. Whether it's rent or housing or food. I mean, the Federal Reserve and reckless government spending plays a bigger role there. But if we actually get real mass deportations, that will help with affordability. So I call it a two-headed monster when it comes to affordability. We have the U.S. Federal Reserve. It's neither federal nor do they have any reserves, and we have reckless government spending. Since 1960, we've spent about, give or take, $180 trillion.
Wow. People can't fathom that.
They can't. If you could stack it up to the sky, I wonder how high it would go.
Yeah.
Look at the price of gold since we left the gold standard in 1971.
It just went up.
Yes, it hit $5,500, and most of that is actually your depreciating dollar. It's not, necessarily the price of gold going up, but our dollar being destroyed. One thing I want viewers to understand is we did not have sustained inflation in our nation in the 1800s. So before we had the U.S. Federal Reserve, we didn't have inflation over the long term. You had periods of inflation and then deflation, and it would kind of balance out over the long run. But according to the New York Fed and their data, we had a spike of inflation when the Fed was created in 1913, and then we had the Depression, and then after that we've had sustained runaway inflation, and our dollar has truly been destroyed. And you can't have real capitalism unless you have sound money. So the world is going back to a reserve-backed currency system over time. It's not going to happen overnight. I think we need to look at that too. I'm not saying we have to go back to a gold-backed system, because you would have to inflate the value of our gold, which is actually really inflationary. But we need to back it by something. Whether it's go back to petroleum, platinum, gold. We need to take a hard look at hard assets, so to speak, and try and back the dollar by something.
It could be backed by numerous, multiple things, not just one thing.
Yes, it could be a basket of hard assets.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think about responsible population growth? Because I live in Cantonment. I grew up in Cantonment. Taramis grew up in Molino.
Yes.
And Beulah has just exploded. There are just so many more cars on the road. There's so many more forests that have been clear cut and subdivisions gone in. So what do you think about that?
So I'm a big guy for conservation. So we need to balance development and capitalism with conservation. I want to preserve as much of old Florida as we can. Again, we came to the district in the 1800s. We're a sixth generation Northwest Florida family. My mother tells me stories that they used to drive their trucks and cars up on the beach along 30A, and there was no condominiums, nothing. I'm not saying we go back to that, but we need to balance protecting the environment and our trees, our forest with development. One issue that I'm hearing from stakeholders locally is they can't push back on development projects just by talking about congestion. So you can have a 2-lane highway and you don't get the money to expand that, but you build 10,000 new homes. Well, that's a safety issue. So, we need to take a look at that, because we have to preserve old Florida while we also grow as a state.
Right. It's a safety issue, and it's a habitat and ecosystem issue, because where are the animals going? We've got bears in everybody's garbage and backyards in Gulf Breeze. We have coyotes, raccoons, and possums, and whatever else in Cantonment, eating cats, and all the cat food, making a mess, eating the chickens. And it's because next door, what used to be a forest is now a subdivision. They've clear cut and paved over it. And it's also causing flooding.
Yes.
Flooding issues. That's the reason why we flood, is because there's no impervious ground anymore. I mean, there's no pervious ground. It's all impervious. It's all concrete.
Yes.
It's roof lines, sidewalks, roads, highways, buildings, strip malls. It's just been overgrown. And that's what's causing the flooding. When we flood downtown, the water doesn't come from the bay. It doesn't come because there's a storm surge in the bay and that's where the water is. It always comes from the north. And it's because there's not enough ground saturation.
Makes sense. So one point I do want to mention is, unfortunately, babies are born today with microplastics in their brain, in their blood. So there's just so many ways that we can balance, again, progress and in capitalism, but also take care of our own health and our environment. So just food for thought.
Well, that's from environment. Environmental issues is the plastics.
Yes.
There's a lot of plastic out there.
Yes.
So Yeah, I guess I don't know if there's a different way to make plastic, but almost, we can't almost survive without plastic nowadays because everything is wrapped in plastic.
Mhm.
Every package and every piece of food.
It's a balancing act. So,
It's a lot. So we're going to take a commercial break. And I want to remind our viewers that the Thornton Review is a civic engagement show with a purpose to spread awareness by interviewing local elected officials, candidates, and professional leaders. This is information you won't get anywhere else. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Doug Chico. He is a candidate for Florida's 1st Congressional District. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button right now. Be sure to like the video and hit the notification bell so you never miss a great guest. We provide this content as a public service, and it helps our channel when you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. You can watch us at our YouTube channel, The Thornton Review, at The Thornton Review 7810, our website, thethorntonreview.com. On Vimeo, please follow The Thornton Review. Please like our Facebook page, The Thornton Review Show, on TV, WBQP Channel 12, and WBQP on Roku and Fire Stick. Company can install any type of fence. When you call and mention the Thornton Review, you'll receive a $100 discount on your fence. They also offer military discounts. Vinyl fence, wood fence, aluminum fence, chain link fence. If it has the word fence, Alpha Fence Company can do it. 850-586-8020. 850-586-8020. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to continue our discussion with Doug Chico, candidate for Congress, U.S. Congress. So what's going to be the very first thing you do when you're elected?
Digital Bill of Rights.
Okay.
We need to halt the surveillance state that is tearing apart our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, because if we don't have some level of privacy, we don't have liberty. Our founding fathers wrote in pen names. If they had the surveillance systems back then that we have today, the revolution would have failed, and we would have never had the American experiment. Whether it's age verification, flock safety, all these other AI systems, we need to have guardrails on these things. Again, AI is here, it's to stay, but we need to have a guardrail between security, progress, and civil liberties. And I'm not really seeing our elected officials doing a good job to safeguard our Constitution and Bill of Rights. So that's what I would work on first. And I already have a draft that's mostly complete, but we're working on that as a team right now.
Interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So when you say Digital Bill of Rights, can you explain that further? I mean, you did explain it in a nutshell, but what's digital, the digitality? It's because it's the safeguard on the AI. I get that.
It is a larger view of how can we safeguard Americans in the digital era. So I'll give an example. Data brokers. These data brokers are big tech companies. They aggregate all this information about everything we do on a daily basis. And then they sell it to other companies, sell it to federal agencies, and there's no safeguards on that. For instance, it's perfectly legal for federal agencies, whether it's the FBI or other agencies, to buy anything from these data brokers. So, and that will circumnavigate the Constitution and Bill of Rights. That's not right. We need to put guardrails on that. In fact, I would ban data brokers from selling this data, period. So.
Interesting. So what about roads, highways, infrastructure? We obviously, they're working on the roads nonstop around here.
Yes.
Infrastructure, bridges, safety issues and evacuation routes issues. Do you have any plans set for that?
Sure. So I think we need to widen some of our roads. We've talked about Highway 98 for years, but we need to make sure that we're taking care of our citizens. So as we have a population growth that continues to move on, we need to have the infrastructure to support that. So whether it's PACE or Highway 98, I've spoken with stakeholders and they've all said the same thing. Like, we need help because people keep moving into Florida. Again, we are the free state of Florida. We're not perfect by any means, but people continue to move here because Governor Ron DeSantis has done a great job. He's been America's governor.
Absolutely.
With that, many people have been fleeing these blue cities and coming to Florida, but our infrastructure has not really caught up to that. A few weeks ago, I spoke with a local fire chief who explained he's seeing a population growth. His response times are getting a little slower. He needs a new fire station, but he doesn't have the funding to get that done. So before we send billions of dollars overseas for foreign aid and spend money on DEI, we need to take care of our own citizens first and make sure our first responders and law enforcement are getting the funding they need to take care of us.
Absolutely. So this fire chief, how many fires do they have? Do you know?
So he didn't get into specifics for how many fires they respond to, but at a high level, it's we need to look at matching funding levels with population growth to make sure that we're taking care of our people. So
back to your schooling. So you went to the U.S. Naval Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
And you majored and got your bachelor's in history.
Yes, Bachelor of Science in history. Yes.
What else did you study?
So we had to be required to take all the engineering courses. There's certain
engineering.
Yes, it's an engineering school.
You're very analytical. You think very analytically.
In
like
some
a bridge builder.
some capacity, probably. That's why I kind of dove into the AI surveillance part. But no, naval architecture, you take a class in that. Electrical engineering, 2 semesters. Thermodynamics. Naval weapon systems, you learn about how radar works, sonar. You get a good technical background, so you can be a history major and you're still taking all these difficult courses. The Naval Academy was actually ranked as the #1 public education school in the country. So again, a lot of recognition for the Naval Academy. It's a great school.
What are your goals for District 1?
We need a VA hospital to come to Pensacola. So it's the least we can do for the people that have given so much for our great nation. So as a veteran myself, I get it. I hear it from veterans all the time. In fact, our sitting congressman, I'll take a step back. There is a big event hosted by the director of the VA for VISN 16, the Gulf Coast region. Every elected official for the state of Florida was invited. This occurred on the 30th of last month. Senator Rick Scott and Senator Ashley Moody sent staffers to represent them. State representatives showed up, county commissioners. Our sitting U.S. congressman skipped the event. Congress was in recess, and he didn't bother to send a staffer. So guess who was asked to represent all of Northwest Florida and sit in his seat up front?
Who?
I was.
Wow, okay.
So I addressed, a couple hundred, veterans and their spouses there briefly, took a few questions. Anyway, I was asked to represent all of Northwest Florida.
Wow. Well, that's huge.
And my thing is, leadership is about showing up. If you don't show up, you can't campaign on helping veterans. I was the only candidate there for U.S. Congress District 1. So that was truly a pivotal moment for our campaign. And it's only accelerated from there, the momentum.
So you were at the right place at the right time. But the right person at the right place at the right time makes a difference.
I would agree.
Because you're passionate about the VA hospital and helping veterans who need help.
Yes, ma'am.
So would you want to build a new VA hospital or use an existing building?
So the easiest path is to take, again, the building I was born in. Again, I was born at the Navy Hospital back in the day. We're a 6th-generation Northwest Florida family with deep roots here. Take the Navy Hospital. There aren't that many people stationed in there now. Take them out. Take them over to the VA clinic now, and you can do a swap, or you send more VA personnel in there so we can have a hospital kind of to support our existing veteran population. Because I talked to likely voters. They're having to drive to Biloxi. In some cases, they have to drive to South Florida to see a specialist. We need to do all that we can to keep our veterans here to make sure they can get the care they need and they don't have to wait months to see it. And I also want to make sure that we streamline the existing community care network. One issue, and I expressed this to the director of the VA, the regional director, there are some practitioners out in the private sector that don't get paid. They do all the paperwork right, and for whatever reason, they're not getting payment for services rendered. And eventually, no matter how much you love veterans, if you're a doctor or a nurse, you can't continue to work for free. So that we can do better, and we must.
So there's a VA clinic here.
Yes.
And what, they go see a doctor there, and the doctor refers them to wherever they need to go?
Typically, that's how it works. Some people will see a VA doctor here, but oftentimes people are referred out in town to what's called the Community Care Network, managed by United Health and TRICARE. OptumServe, which is managed by United Health, just because they don't have the capacity to see everybody. And I want to give veterans flexibility. So if you want to go out in town, you can. I want to make sure that we get more practitioners into the network, whether it's Baptist, Sacred Heart, to give people more options. Because what's happening right now is, if you're in a given specialty, you may have to drive a few hours just to see that specialist because they don't take the VA. Again, maybe it's too much paperwork, or you're not getting paid on time, or not paid at all. We have to do better. That's a big goal of mine, to take care of our veterans in our district, in our country. Because once again, I'm a veteran. I'm in their shoes right now.
So are there any other issues that you're passionate about?
There's plenty. We could talk all day on the issues, and I do love Q&A. One thing that I do think we need to tackle is trying to get some of this big money out of politics. Whether it's repealing Citizens United, or one issue that I've brought to light is we have to shorten the campaign cycle. So because right now, when I'm elected in January, a few months later, I unfortunately will have to start thinking about fundraising. So if a congressman, for 2 years, if you're in the House of Representatives, your term is 2 years, you constantly have to be thinking about fundraising just for re-election. How much time do you truly have to focus on, cases, your constituents, pushing bills forward to defend the Constitution and take care of our people? So if we could shorten the campaign...
You have to have a good staff.
You do. You do. And it helps to hire veterans. And the current congressman, up until recently, as far as I know, didn't have any veterans on his staff. There's plenty of qualified veterans in our area. I will commit to hiring as many veterans as possible, for my staff right now. So.
Okay. And so you're from Pensacola.
Yes,
Your dad was in the Marines.
Yes, ma'am.
What did he do in the Marines?
He was a helicopter pilot, so he flew
My dad was a helicopter pilot.
That's awesome. Which helicopter did he fly?
The Huey.
Okay.
In Vietnam.
That's awesome.
What about your dad?
He flew the CH-46, so actually that helicopter was in Vietnam, so he actually told me he saw battle damage from the Vietnam War on his helicopter. He would fly. Because the Marine Corps, the joke is they don't get the funding that the Air Force does, so it was kind of a patched up platform, and they fixed the damage, but you could still see the wear and tear from the Vietnam War on that helicopter.
Yeah, my dad's got some pretty wild stories about the helicopters in Vietnam.
I bet. Yeah.
That would be another show.
Yes.
I could interview my dad about his story. I should. That just gave me an idea.
How old is he, if you don't mind me asking?
He just turned 79.
That's awesome.
Like 2 months ago.
That's great.
Yeah, but he's still in really good health. I mean, he's had a couple of operations that he had complications from, but he's overcome that, and he's back to normal, back to being the ox of a Vietnam veteran that he's always been.
That's awesome. So does he go to the VA for care, or do you...
No.
Okay.
He goes to Ochsner in New Orleans.
Okay.
It's the best hospital in the world.
That's great.
Well, it's the best hospital in the area. They've got really good doctors there. He did go to Shands in Jacksonville for proton therapy treatment when he had prostate cancer, but then he went to Ochsner because it's closer, and he had the aquablation for prostate surgery just last year. He had complications from it, but that's, people, you never know what's going to happen. People's bodies take things different ways. It wasn't anything the doctor did. It was just my dad just had complications from it.
I understand.
But he's better. He's
good to hear.
And better.
I'm glad.
And so you went up to DC to sell your F3, your your vehicle protective.
So I'm the National Sales Director for F3 Defense. We sell less than lethal systems for law enforcement, pepper spray systems. I'll tell you a funny story.
That's an amazing idea.
It is. There's a caveat to it. So the people that need it most are these agencies in these big Democrat-run cities. Talk about a failure of leadership. They've told the company, we do not want your product because we would never pepper spray our people. So that leaves that law enforcement officer with a decision. Do I stay here in my vehicle as Antifa beats it in? Or do I have to drive possibly through a crowd and put someone's life in danger? Again, this is just an example of how the Democrats have failed to run our cities. They've failed to manage our country. They let 20 million illegals in. Enough is enough. Look, I know the Republican Party has issues, but the Democrats are insane, and they have lost the faith of the American people. And we can't let them take control of the House, the Senate, and they will not win Florida's 1st district. I'll make sure of that.
So, as far as the pepper spray on the car, can civilians have that?
Yes, you can. So there's certain regulations on which states, and it gets kind of different for every municipality for how much product you can have on personal use. But yes, so if someone wants to check out the website, F3 Defense, they can see what they can buy and see what's available. Because if you're driving through, let's say a big Democrat city, you might want to have a pepper spray system on the top of your car.
Yeah.
Things are crazy these days.
But you might want to be careful about when and where you use it.
True.
Because the wrong person could use it for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
But that's just the opposite of what you don't want to abuse your rights. People should not abuse their rights. They shouldn't abuse their First Amendment right. Definitely their Second Amendment right. So that's where all of this picking and taking away of our rights comes in, is when people abuse our rights.
Yes, absolutely.
So, what is the most important thing you want to change in District 1?
So, tackling AI surveillance, we need a VA hospital to support the veteran population. We've got 65 million plus illegals that have to go home. We have to get the money out of politics. So these all come together to doing what's best for the American people, and specifically the people in the 1st district. But in terms of VA hospital, that's a major issue we've talked about for years, but instead of just commissioning a study to talk about it, because starting a commission is just the way things die. It's the way politicians say, hey, we're working on it, but then it gets put off to the side and we forget about it. We need a VA hospital. We have to get it done. We have to push back on this surveillance state. Again, if we don't have any privacy, we don't have liberty. We're quickly becoming like China. Civil liberties is what got me running. I was looking over the bay here in Pensacola, thinking about the direction of my nation, thinking about the world my daughter's going to be growing up in, and I just got fed up enough. That's why I decided to run, and that's why I'm here today.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're about to have to bring it to a close. Do you have any closing statements?
I do. I would say we cannot let our Constitution be shredded by big tech and big government. I am a Republican. Not all Republicans are the same. We have an obligation to fight for our nation. I swore an oath to this Constitution, again, as a plebe at the U.S. Naval Academy, and then as an officer. I fully intend to keep that oath. We're a 6th-generation Northwest Florida family. This is not a stopping ground for us. My ancestors are buried in the district. My people are here. This is my land. I'm ready to fight for my people in Northwest Florida and my country. And as our next congressman in the 1st district, I will donate every dollar that exceeds the median income for the people in Northwest Florida. And again, I think every congressman should do that. And I specifically think that every congressional candidate for the 1st district here in Florida should make that same pledge. It's the least we can do to take care of our own people. And as we benefit the people in the 1st district, our salary will go up as well.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your insight. And I agree with you on all of the issues. And I appreciate you wanting to step up and tackle everything. And I think every parent can understand exactly where you're coming from, because we want the best for our children. Like, I ran for ECUA back in 2020, but I'm a Republican in a 70% Democratic, county district.
Yes, ma'am.
I knew I wasn't going to win, but I just wanted to find out what it was like to be a candidate and to go through the steps and to find out, what you do as a candidate. Because there's certain steps you go through. You door knock, you make phone calls, you send out mailers, and you do the robocalls. I don't know if you're doing the robocalls. I did the robocalls where they, taped my voice, and I had my spiel, and it got blasted out.
We're not doing those, but yes.
Yeah. So, but it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it. and I learned a lot from it, so I completely understand. But the reason I wanted to run for ECUA is for clean water, clean air, clean environment, because I have a vested interest in Escambia County. It's where I grew up. My parents met here. My parents were actually from Panama City, didn't know each other there, but moved here, went to UWF the first year of UWF, and that's where they met.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, started a family. Here I am, and stayed here. And so I grew up here. I got married, raised my son here. And so I have a vested interest. And I think everybody who's from here, and I'm sure everybody who has, who's fourth, fifth, sixth generation Pensacolian, you feel like this is your city, this is your town, this is your county. You want what's best for it. And so you want to strive and fight for what's best for everybody here, what's best for the community. And conservation is a huge part of it. Conserving the ecosystem, conserving what made Pensacola. Pensacola is the oldest, it's the very first city that was founded in the United States.
Yes.
And then hurricanes came, Tristan da Luna found Pensacola, and then
1565, I believe. Yeah.
And then then along comes St. Augustine after Pensacola, but then the hurricane came and demolished Pensacola. So that's why St. Augustine gets the credit, is because they're the longest standing, never demolished by a hurricane city. But Pensacola was here first.
Yes. They try and steal our thunder over there.
Yeah.
A little bit, yes.
And I'm so into preserving the historical integrity of Pensacola, the architectural integrity. There's so many things, houses getting torn down, and this group of people, including me, who's, crying and upset because this beautiful historic home and homes and buildings are being demolished. But there needs to be laws or ordinances put into place for homeowners to not let their homes get into disrepair. If you can't afford to own the home, if you can't afford the upkeep on these old historic, these gigantic homes in downtown Pensacola that are historical, they are the historical foundation of Pensacola, of what we have left. So I think that we should preserve that. And people who come in and buy these old homes, who want to renovate them into something brand, I can understand updating your kitchen and bathroom, but they want to change the entire look of the home. They want to put these crazy fences around them. There's one up in North Hill that ended up getting burned down. The guy, was doing the work himself and probably didn't even have the correct permits to do whatever on earth it was he was doing to this old historic home, and the thing burned down. So I think that we need to preserve the architecture and conserve the historical integrity of what made Pensacola, which is a lot of the architecture. And the fact that it was built on a grid. Our road system is built on a grid, and it just makes the flow of traffic much easier. Now we've got these other roads that are windy and go from the east side to the west side, or Highway 29 is pretty much a straight line going up north into Halifax. So those are good. But there's a lot of city structure and infrastructure that needs to be conserved and preserved. And without certain ordinances, it won't be, because like the North Hill Preservation Association, they do have the ordinances in place. They have very strict guidelines on what you can do with those houses. That's just a very small part of Pensacola. The entirety of the city of Pensacola needs to be under some sort of architectural preservation association, I think. What do you think about that? Have you thought about that?
So I haven't. So that's a delicate balance between property rights and preserving what we have. So that is a delicate balance. And again, if you buy the home, it's your home. But also you're balancing, what's historic is key too. So
Interesting. I like your input. Well, because it's lawful. You get lawful input on what's going on.
And I as a history major, I love old houses too, and I think we should preserve it. But at the same time, it's property rights over here and preserving old Florida here. So that is a delicate balance, and that's not necessarily an easy thing to go about, but something to think about for sure.
Same with farmland.
Oh yes, we can. Yeah.
Say you inherit farmland. it's not my fault that you inherited farmland that isn't worth what, the develop, what could be developed. You inherited farmland. Your grandfather, great grandfather, whoever bought it as farmland, used it as farmland. You inherited the farmland. It's not up to me or the taxpayers to compensate you because your farmland is only worth a certain amount, and you want it to identify as something that's worth more.
And that is a tough one. We also have the fewest farms we've had since 1890
I know, it's kind
in
of
the
scary.
U.S.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this consolidation with big corporations right now. And I'm worried about the food supply long term being controlled by not only foreign governments indirectly, but China,
Bill Gates,
foreign corporations, and also kind of U.S. corporations gobbling up farmland and controlling food supply. But we could talk all day about that as well.
I know.
Maybe another show.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, so we are going to have to bring it to a close. I really appreciate the conversation. Any other last closing statements?
Well, I will say, please check out chicoforcongress.com to learn more about me. I rely on a grassroots movement with donors chipping in, whether it's $20 or $50. That's how we win this election. Folks chipping in just a little bit so we can buy more yard signs, reach more voters, and ultimately, having someone that is a Christian, a father, a patriot, a former Navy officer, someone that truly is from the area, truly wants to defend the Constitution, and will fight like heck to do that, and also donate their salary above the median wage in the district. That is putting Northwest Florida first. I'm a proven leader, and I'm ready to fight, and that's why I'm here.
I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about you and more from you.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the Thornton Review is on the air to provide public service awareness and intellectual infrastructure to our community. This show was made possible by Larry Downs Jr. Plumbing, Ida Gates Godly Teas LLC, Alpha Fence Company, and our guest, Doug Chico. He's a candidate for U.S. Congress in Florida's 1st Congressional District. And we want to thank you for watching this episode of the Thornton Review. Bye-bye.